introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Night Qatar. Every night during the World Cup, we'll be breaking down the results of the day. We'll also look ahead to other matchups, and we'll also be your show of choice when it comes to the Canadian content. Not playing that day? Well, it doesn't really matter because we'll have all the news you need to know around the Maple Leaf in Qatar. I'm Annie Petrillo. That's Oliver Platt. That's Gareth Wheeler. And York United's Jordan Wilson is rounding out your home team. In Qatar is our man, Kristian Jack. We'll be checking in with him daily. And this is the preview show, gentlemen. We are getting ready for Qatar 2022. And I'm not going to go easy on you out of the gate. Ollie, you're first up, my friend. Who's going to win the World Cup? Come on now.
Straight into it.
Your best educated guess.
Who is going to win the World Cup? I think there are 8 teams that can win the World Cup. 6 I feel more confident about than the other 2, admittedly, but I think there's 8 with a chance. What's really interesting about this tournament is that we just haven't seen Europe play against South America for like a few years now, right? So there's not a ton of comparison between 2 of the favorites in Brazil and Argentina against the European powerhouses, other than that Argentina-Italy game, where Argentina obviously looked very good. But I think Brazil, the considered favorites by most sports books, I think they are rightly the favorites for this tournament. I think this is the best Brazilian squad I've seen since at least 2006 and maybe 2002, the last time they won the tournament. I think they have an excellent coach. They have a clear and established style of play now. It's a Brazil team that for me feels like it's modernized, since that collapse that we all remember against Germany. So that, I think, will be the question around Brazil, is they've had success after success after success over the past couple of years. When you look at qualifying, a historic run, they haven't necessarily faced much adversity recently. And when that happens, when that hits in this tournament, how do they respond to it? Does it look like 7-1 again, or is this team made of something different? But on a talent level, I think they're the best team in the tournament.
Wheels, who are you going with?
Well, it's hard to discredit or go against anything that Ollie said, but I'll just go Argentina. These 2 sides could very well meet up in the semifinal. And the last time that these 2 sides played, a significant game in a tournament was the 2021 Copa America final. And Argentina finally got over the hump, their first senior title in 26 years. There's no side in world football today that is playing better from a national team perspective than Argentina. They've won, they're unbeaten in their last 35. That's 2 away from an all-time unbeaten streak record. That's remarkable. And this is a much different Argentina side than we've seen in recent versions of this tournament, where actually their strength might be their defensive work rate and how good they are from the defensive side of things. They've only conceded twice in their last 14 games overall. You add Lionel Messi, Lautaro Martinez. They have some real chemistry in attack as well. Some young, exciting players and a more robust, substantial midfield. I think Argentina is the team to beat heading into Qatar.
Okay, so what I'm hearing now from Ollie and Wheels, and this seems to be the consensus, gentlemen, a lot of people are picking a South American team to win. The last South American team to win 2002, that was Brazil. The last 4 World Cups have been won by European sides. So are you going to keep the trend going, Jordan? Are you picking a South American team, or are you going European, or are you going off the rails?
So there's that scene in Fast 5 where The Rock tries to arrest Dom Toretto.
Never saw it. I quit at Fast 4.
He goes, "This is Brazil." Everyone has the guns out. If you don't know, I'm going to give you the reference. Brazil is winning the 2022 World Cup. I agree with Ollie. This is the most depth I've seen within the squad. They have 2 that can come in at every position, ready to give 100% with so much quality, so much so informed. Usually with a Brazil team, you have these stars that come and shine throughout the year. They have hard-working players now as well as stars, like the likes of Rafinha, Martinelli, my boy from Arsenal, Rodrigo. These are guys that can come in and come with skill, but also offer a lot defensively and just a lot for the group. So obviously the likes of Dani Alves as well in the back. Thiago Silva, this is going to be his last World Cup. Marquinhos, this is such a balanced team.
He's younger than Atiba.
He pulled out the wheelchair wheels.
Wheels down.
Wheels falling off. No, but I think for me, I really feel confident about Brazil. The only question mark, as Ollie alluded to, is that they haven't played many or much European competition for the past few years. But for me, in the last 17 games, they scored 40 goals, only conceded 5. And every time I watch them play, they just look comfortable and look like they're ready to go all the way.
Okay. Perhaps these are picks that will come to fruition because when you look at World Cups past, Ollie, the winner usually ends up being a bust 4 years later, right? So, I mean, will France be the answer to this question for you, Ollie, or do you have another team in mind? Who will be the World Cup's biggest bust?
There's a few possibilities here, I think. I don't think it'll be France. You have to say that the biggest bust has already presented itself in the Italians, not even qualifying for the tournament.
You know what? You're trying so
we should
hard
get that one in there.
Eat your pants up.
Just saying, European champions. The team I wanted to pick here was Belgium because I think they have real bust potential, but I also don't want to put the jinx on Canada. So I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going to say Portugal. I just think this whole tournament with Portugal really revolves around Cristiano Ronaldo, right? One, how does Cristiano Ronaldo play, firstly, because he hasn't been playing particularly well this season. Can he still be the superstar that we know he is at his absolute best at this stage of his career and at this tournament? And then two, how do they manage Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Is the media circus that's coming with him, with the interview he's just given, going to be a factor at this tournament, a distraction? And is he going to allow himself to play more of a role in the squad rather than being on the pitch for every minute of every game, which I think has been detrimental to Portugal in recent years? I think they need to pick their moments with Cristiano Ronaldo, but will he allow them to do that is the question. So I think this is a team that has the talent to go all the way in this tournament, but there's just a lot of questions around this situation that make you doubt them a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention Manchester United now trying to find a way if they can sue him as well. They're actually hoping to walk away. There's going to be a lot of distractions off the field for Ronaldo. All right, Wheels, quickly, who's your bust?
England. England's my bust. They didn't win a game in 6 in their Nations League performances this year, including losses to Hungary. Harry Kane hasn't scored a goal in open play since November of 2021 for the national team as well. And they're the only group in the tournament where all teams in their group are ranked in the top 20. And England has a way of blowing it each and every year. I'm going to document it a little bit later on in the program, but I just don't think there's a whole lot of confidence with this manager. I don't think that there's a lot of confidence in the play. There's pressure. Are they going to come out and play attacking football? Or are they going to stick with this 3 at the back, which seemingly doesn't work or play to their strengths? I think England are not on good form and have incredible bust potential for this World Cup.
Jordan, round us out.
Quickly, great minds think alike, Andy, because I think it's France going to be the biggest bust. I think maybe they make it out the group, but I don't think they're going much further than that. Based on the fact that if you're looking at, I know I don't want to bring it up though, Andy, but Italy in 2010, there's a pattern, right? You win the World Cup.
Spain in 2014, not just
and then sorry,
and Germany in 2018.
Again, you're taking on my points, but there is a pattern there, right? When all the pressure's on you, you're going to a tournament, and then also too, if you told me in 2021 France was undefeated in Nations League, like they look solid, there's just a bit 2022's come in, they're not the same team. Like going to the tournament, I feel like they have an easier group. But I just don't feel like they have enough to really tip them over the edge, and I just don't think they're going to do well this time.
New midfield, completely new midfield from when 2018 when they won the World Cup.
We're going to talk a lot of Canada a little later on in the show, but quickly here, just as an overarching theme, Ollie, fill in the blank for me. Canada will advance from their group if
that front 3 or front 4, even that we know it can be so strong with Canada, if they scare the life out of teams, that I think is this team's X factor. It's Alphonso Davies, it's Jonathan David, it's Tejan Buchanan, and it's Kyle Larin. We know these guys in transition on the counter-attack can be absolutely unbelievable. We're seeing an example of that right here with this goal from Jonathan David. That I think is going to be the model for Canada. There's moments where they'll sit in deep. There's moments where they'll try and press, where they'll have the ball, where they'll be okay without it. But it's that ability to go forward quickly and in transition. I think that this is special about this team. And I do think, matches up to the World Cup level and gives them a chance in these games.
Canada will advance from the group if a miracle plays out before our eyes. That's what it's going to take here, because it's a statistical anomaly. In the 2018 World Cup, only one side advanced from their group coming out of pot 4, and that was Japan. And let's be honest, that was a much weaker group than what Canada faced. And this is much less to do with what Canada's all about, because I think that this is a good team that is ripe to spring an upset. But they're playing the third place team from the last World Cup and the second ranked team in the world in Belgium, the runners up from 2018 in Croatia, a side that's on incredible form right now, and a Moroccan side that's brought in new players into their camp and seems to be a revived group under a new manager as well, and is a perennial team that, atop the bunch in terms of African nations. I just think that their group is incredibly difficult, and Canada are playing at a competitive disadvantage in this World Cup.
Extremely tough. I agree with you, Wheels. I would say to counter Ollie's point, I do agree that we have to go forward and do well, but I think it's just not being naive defensively and almost like defending with your life every single game. We're going to have the perfect test going against probably one of the best attacking teams in the world in Belgium. Going into this game, it's just about us being strong defensively. Like, how do we look in the midfield? How do we look in the back? How do we look when teams break us down? Like, can we get numbers behind the ball? And if we can keep teams to not scoring on us, obviously, but scoring minimal goals, like a 1 goal, I know we can maybe squeak a 1 or 2 goals in and maybe get a win. But like I said, it's a tall order because I think people are underestimating how difficult this group really is. But I will say that this is obviously the best Canadian team that we've ever had. So the optimist in me is crossing my fingers and my toes, and my legs, and braiding the beard hair. I'm making sure that I have everything going, and I'm ready for
Gross.
I'll braid my hair too. Let's see if KJ is braiding his hair for good luck, because we're your crew here. As I mentioned, KJ is in Qatar. Let's check in with him.
Hello from Doha on the eve of 2022 World Cup Qatar starting. We're here inside the International Media Center, where earlier today, FIFA President Gianni Infantino launched a staggering attack on many people in the Western world and their criticism of Qatar. He ended his press conference talking about the need to talk more about football, and we certainly will do that as we're here for the next few weeks covering the games. Infantino had a passionate plea to talk more about the games, and I have to say, we've been here for about 24 hours right now and talking to a lot of the local community in supermarkets, in restaurants, gas stations, taxi and Uber drivers. They're extremely excited to welcome the world. Many people talking to us, asking about Canada, and always have a big smile on their face when they talk to us and find out that we're Canadians. Many people here are also very passionate to kick off the games at the World Cup and be the first team to start the World Cup in their game against Ecuador. Qatar excited to welcome the world and, of course, get the opportunity to start the game on Sunday at 7 o'clock here local time against the South American team. As I said earlier, the locals are excited to welcome the world and see what their team can do. Now, not many people fancy their team to get through in a group with Ecuador, the Netherlands and the Senegalese. But remember this, a host nation often surprises when it comes to the World Cup. And even though Felix Sanchez's team aren't fancied by many, they have been together for some time. You have to say they probably lead the World Cup in the cohesion standings when you think that many countries have arrived here over the last 4 or 5 days and only starting to plan for the World Cup now, coming off what has been a very exhausting European season already. The other thing about this is they've got a real chance to get through the group now because Sadio Mane, one of the greatest players in the world, has been ruled out of the World Cup, and that has certainly thrown a wrench in the plans of the Senegalese. So is there a chance that Qatar can progress from Group A? Remember some of these facts also as well. Since the hosts have given the right to host the first opening game from the reigning champions back in 2002 when that was passed over in 2006. They're unbeaten collectively in all 4 matches, outscoring opponents by 13 goals to 4. Remember, Germany dismantled Costa Rica. South Africa got that brilliant draw as well in 2010. Brazil beat Croatia in 2014. And Russia, who were very unfancied coming into the World Cup 4 years ago, beat Saudi Arabia 5-0 on the way to making it all the way through to the quarterfinals. So can Qatar make it through? Also remember this. What is the way and what is the best way to get through the group? Win your opening game. 60 teams have won their opening game out of 73 of the last 6 World Cups and progress. That is 82%. In other words, win your opening match and you've certainly got a great chance. So as Infantino asked us, we'll start talking about the football. We, of course, are here for the next few weeks. We'll be reporting live from lots of games as well. Join us on One Soccer for that. In the meantime, throw it back to you. Enjoy the games and we'll see you tomorrow for the opening match.
All right, great stuff, KJ. And when we come back, we'll give our thoughts on the match that will officially kick off the 2022 World Cup. Yes, it's Qatar versus Ecuador. Who do the guys think will win this one? We find out next. Good Night Qatar continues here on One Soccer. Andy, Gareth, Ollie, Jordan with you. This is the preview show, and we're going to set up now the game that's going to officially kick it all off. It's the host nation Qatar taking on Ecuador. Ecuador ranked 46th in the world. Qatar ranked 51st. We saw the Canadians actually face Qatar back in September. That was a 2-0 victory for Canada. But what are your expectations for this match, Gareth? You have to unmute yourself first, my friend.
I know that there's a lot that's being made up of Qatar and being the host nation and a side that's done well in recent international competitions. When we saw Canada versus Qatar, they looked a million miles off the pace. They didn't look fit. They didn't look all that organized for a side that's played double-digit amount of games. Like, they've taken every friendly possible against under 23 teams, against B teams. I'm just not sure what this group is all about, and I'm not sure they're anywhere near enough to really compete on a stage like this. Look, only one nation has never advanced. Home nation has never advanced from the group stage of a World Cup. That's South Africa in 2010. I think you can make it 2 this time around. I think Ecuador has far more quality. This is a side that did well in the under-19 World Cup. This group has moved through. They're all in action. The Brazilian manager, Tite, basically said Ecuador could be a surprise team in the World Cup. Brazil drew Ecuador the last 2 times they played them, and Ecuador has drawn Argentina, and they come into this tournament without conceding in their last 6 games. I think it's a mismatch on paper. I think that Ecuador might not sound like a sexy nation, but I think that they're a team to be reckoned with here in Qatar.
We'll dive into Ecuador in just a moment, but Ollie first. What about Qatar? What's one thing football fans should know about this team?
Well, yeah, hosts have generally performed strongly, so that, gives Qatar some hope. But I'm kind of with Wheels on this one. I think your expectations around Qatar have to be pretty low. To give you some background on how they prepared for this tournament, they won the Asian Cup in 2019, which was a really impressive accomplishment and a bit of a shock. And then they went to the Gold Cup semi-finals, albeit not really facing one of the big hitters in CONCACAF. But overall, over the last couple of years in particular, this is a team that plays the schedule of a European qualifying group, Portugal and Serbia's group. Obviously, they weren't included in the final standings, but they played the same matches. And they would have finished below Luxembourg had they actually been included in the standings of that group. It doesn't really bode well for a team that's going to compete for the World Cup. But I think it's a very interesting story overall. It's a team that has essentially been built over nearly 20 years since they opened the Aspire Academy in Qatar, which obviously preceded them being awarded the World Cup. And like KJ mentioned a moment ago, this is a team that should be as well prepared as any, because they've essentially, all their players play in the Qatari league. And they've essentially paused everything to get them in national team camp for a couple of months here coming into the tournament, which is in stark contrast to obviously the situation everyone else is dealing with. So that could be an advantage. 2 players to watch out for are the front 2, Akram Afif, and Amo Azali, who play up top in a 5-3-2. They're the 2 players who Qatar will look to make something happen, but they feel like a long shot to get out of the group to me as well.
All right, but what about Ecuador? Jordan, same question to you. What's one thing football fans should know about this squad?
They have a survivor's instinct. They're hard to beat. They're hard to be scored on. They play with so much speed and physicality. And I would just say a player to watch out for. Obviously, as a midfielder, I'm a bit impartial to liking midfielders that play a certain way. Wheels, he kind of plays like you, Shiseido, the Brighton, the 21-year-old midfielder. He's rugged, loves a tackle. I would just maybe say he covers a bit more kilometers than you would have, but similar players. Great physique, loves to get stuck into a challenge. This Ecuador team, we talked about the other day, gentlemen, that they're a very good side. Very good side. The problem with them is just it doesn't rain goals, right? They don't have that guy to really go in and score goals for them. The goals kind of come from everywhere, but a great side, and for me, 2-0 for Ecuador tomorrow.
Well, this is just an interesting one to me because Ecuador, this is just their fourth World Cup appearance. Qatar, their first, being the host nation. So it's not like there's a lot of history at World Cups to draw on here, Wheels. But what advice do you have for people looking to make a wager on this match?
Despite what history tells us, but this is a World Cup like no other. November in Qatar. I'm going with Ecuador at plus 138 in this game. I think they can just overwhelm Qatar in this game with their high press. Qatar simply struggles to build out of the back. I think there'll be mistakes in this game. Give me Ecuador. Also, give me Ecuador to go on and advance from this group at plus 117. I think there's some good value there.
All right, there you go. Well, it's time to talk Canada. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at the side that's in the World Cup for the first time since 1986. What do recent results tell us about them? And the first team they face, Belgium. That's next. Welcome back. You continue to watch Good Night Qatar. It's our preview show, and now we're turning our attention to the team of the hour, the team of the tournament, at least for a lot of people here who bleed the red and white, and that, of course, is Canada. Their final game, gentlemen, before the World Cup, they took on Japan. That was a 2-1 victory for the Canadians. The pace of that game was so much better. Obviously, we know Bahrain, that was more for the MLS players. And this one, though, sneaky by Lucas Cavallini with the Panenka and the penalty kick to secure that 2-1 victory. But when you looked at that game as a whole, Ollie, how did it affect the way you look at Canada entering the World Cup? What kind of form they're in?
First of all, loved the Panenka from Cavallini. The Fun Police had a bit of an issue with it, but give me more Lucas Cavallini taking high risks like that in high leverage moments of game.
He scored.
Exactly. It's in the back of the net. What are people complaining about? I think, look, what I was impressed by with this game was, looking at the Japan goal there, Canada did not start well. And you started to wonder if this could be, a bit of a wake-up call type match for them. But the response after that goal, I thought, was very, very good. I thought it was a really strong performance from Canada overall. And it's just another game where I know there was the loss to Uruguay, but I thought they played well in that game as well. Like, you're still waiting for that game to come where it is that step too far for Canada, right? And I think we've all been kind of anticipating it's going to come at some point, whether it was Uruguay, whether it was that Japan game, that, you just finally get to a point where the quality of the opposition, the circumstances that you're playing in at times with injuries and fitness concerns and so on, it's just going to be too much for Canada to overcome. But we haven't really felt that yet. And I think that gives you real confidence going into this group. This team is ready. This team can compete for all the questions that are being asked about, the health of certain players. That there's a foundation that's been laid down here during the course of qualifying, during the course of the last 2 or 3 years, that has got them primed and ready to be at a World Cup. Like, I feel really good about where this team is at in that sense, much more than I did maybe even just a couple of weeks ago with all the questions we were asking about whether they'd have a starting 11 that was healthy and ready to play in a World Cup game.
Yes, I don't think the rest of the world will see this team the way that we do, because that was a second team for Japan. No one's getting overly excited about how you do in a friendly, but I think based upon the result and the way that Canada played, I think it gets people's attention and it gets that hype train going just a little bit more, because the fact also, Eddie, we've seen this team be convincing in terms of their performances over the last 2 years. So this is like, yeah, okay, this team's stepping up in competition and showing very much the same thing, which is an absolute positive.
And obviously when we talk about this team, we're working under the assumption, 100% fit, this is what they can do. But Jordan, we know that's not the case. We did not see Alphonso Davies or Stephen Eustáquio in that game versus Japan. Alphonso has since joined the team. Eustáquio, pulled up in practice the day before. Now, John Herdman's coming out today and saying Milan Borjan is experiencing some sort of abdominal pain. Don't quite know if these are mind games or not, trying to throw off Belgium. But either way, we know there are some banged up players here. We know about, for sure with Alphonso Davies, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But how do injuries, Jordan, affect the way John Herdman approaches either the tournament and that first game against Belgium?
It's huge. I mean, our best player right now is touch and go if he's going to play. I loved hearing him saying that he's ready. I'm ready. I literally had chills. I was holding my baby. I almost threw him to the ground. I was like, oh, okay, he's ready. We got our guy. I was honestly, but if you're looking at Herdman, to answer your question, Andy, we have so much depth, most depth that we've had ever, in my opinion, but we cannot afford to lose 2 or 3 players. It was nice to see us, the build up to the second goal. All players that were subbed on had something to do with it. Marc-Anthony Kaye, Richie Larea, obviously Cavallini even taking the penalty. We had guys coming off the bench contributing to the squad, but we can't afford to have 3 or 4 guys injured. And as I said before on our show, Eustáquio and Davies Eustáquio being probably our best form player at the moment, and Davies being our X factor and basically carrying the weight of the team on his shoulders in many respects. Those guys have to be playing. And then what happens, it also gives Herdman some options of guys coming off the bench, right? If you lose 2 or 3 players, we basically know the team is going to play. And then the 2 guys coming off the bench rightfully will be impactful, but it's not as impactful as it would be if we had the full arsenal, if we had the full squad.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk Alphonso Davies here, Garrett. This is the elephant in the room because he can say he's ready, but we keep hearing that a wee bit behind schedule for that Belgium game. So let me ask you this. Can Canada get a result against Belgium without Davies or without Davies at 100%?
I don't think so. Look, and that's not to discredit Canada because, Tajon Buchanan stepping up, playing a much more attack-minded role, kind of replacing Davies or Junior Hoylett, who I thought was fantastic against Japan. You're still going to have quality in those positions. But let's be honest, Alphonso Davies is at a different level. He just is. He's a player that's been in a world's best 11. He's an absolute X factor in any one of these games. It's just one of these things. We're not sure what John Herdman's thinking right now. We're not sure where he's at because the last time that we were informed, it was that he didn't even start the sprint part of his return to play regimen by last Wednesday. So how ready is he? What is the actual timeline for him to play against Belgium, for him to play against Croatia? We simply do not know the answer to that question. But I'll tell you what, if Alphonso Davies is in the team and the fact that Belgium doesn't know whether they have to prepare for him or not, call it a mind game, call it a tactic, it adds an absolute wrinkle to this game. Alphonso Davies in Canada's team makes him a completely different entity than Alphonso Davies not being in this team. So, look, if Alphonso doesn't play, it's going to be a real uphill struggle for Canada. If he does play, it provides that glimmer of hope that you have that X factor in the team that can provide that one moment that might be the difference between getting a result and, being on the losing end of the equation.
In tournament play, World Cup, Olympics, coaches most definitely look at games, and they know the games where if we don't get points, we need to get at least a point here or a win here. They really do look at those games, and they know which ones. A lot of people may be, what are you talking about? But they know which ones to expect losses in and which ones to expect wins in. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is read Christine St. Clair's book. She says it all about John Herdman when they were going into the Olympics and World Cup. They had each game, their opponent pegged for how many points they thought they would get against them. That's how tournament play works. And the reason why I'm saying this is to preface this next question with it. Ollie, does John Herdman expect a result versus Belgium? Or does he know that Croatia and Morocco are more realistic?
Well, I don't know if anyone can expect a result against Belgium because clearly Canada are massive underdogs, but I certainly don't think this is a game that you say, oh, well, this is just, a freebie and then you go on to the other 2. Like, we only have 3 games here. You attack every single one with everything you've got to give yourself a chance of getting out of this group. Now, I do look at this Belgian team and compared to Croatia, I think as well. And I think there's vulnerability there. I don't think we should read too much into the friendly against Egypt, but they did have issues dealing with transitions and counterattacks. There are questions as to who is going to start at the back for Belgium. Will they go with the older guys who maybe lack a bit of mobility, or the younger players who are more athletic but don't have that tournament experience? I think Canada will want to go with it with everything they have at trying to target that. It may not work. They may lose the game convincingly. We know that in other areas, Belgium have overwhelming quality and the most quality Canada is going to face in this group stage outside of Luka Modric. But you have to have a go at Belgium, I think, because they are a team with vulnerabilities. So I certainly don't think there's going to be any element of that with Canada, of looking ahead to the next game and just kind of, not being so eager to get a result in one because there's a weaker opponent coming. You have to make the most of every minute you've got on the pitch at this tournament.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always go for the win, but when it comes to just approach, you wonder tactically how it ends up looking. Now, Jordan, I had a chance to speak to John Herdman, and when I asked him, does he like the fact that he's facing Belgium right out of the gate? Just like get it out of the way. His response was just laughter. He just laughed at me because, I mean, this still is a strong team. And I guess as a player yourself, I mean, is it exciting? Is it more exciting or is it more nerve-wracking to face a team that has a guy like, Kevin De Bruyne in it?
It's exciting. I mean, just to echo what the boys are saying as well, I think just getting a result first game is what we want, right? Getting a tie, that's perfect, and just take things the last two games. But in terms of playing someone who is, what did you say, maestro? Maestro. Sorry. Like Kevin De Bruyne in this position, you want to play a guy like that. You want to say, well, 20 years, 30 years from now, when you're telling your kids, grandkids, you want to say you played against one of the best midfielders in that time, in that era. But also what happens too, when you play players that maybe aren't at your quality, sometimes many players can drop, right? You're playing a guy that you can easily take a touch around, your play drops, just the tempo drops. But the opposite effect happens as well. When you're playing a player like Kevin De Bruyne, you cannot make mistakes. So it brings out the best in you. Also, dare I say, it's a learning experience as well. Like to say and to see what someone does every week in and week out for City and what he's done for the past years. You kind of watch him and be like, man, I have to step up my game, but it's amazing to just be here in this atmosphere. So I'm excited for the boys. I am so envious because Howard loved to stick a tackle to Kevin De Bruyne if I could even catch him.
I was going to say, Jordan, first minute, right?
Yeah. You have to crack him. Wheels, come on, old-fashioned. 30 seconds in, you got to crack him.
The one thing that just stays with me is we've got to hear John Herdman firsthand in these games, asking his players to step up and press and get on their man. If they give De Bruyne and these central midfielders time and space, they're on toast because there's an absolute advantage, Belgium's attack to Canada's defense. So it starts in the midfield. You need to put pressure on that ball. And then Canada's attackers, I have no doubt they're going to ask questions about that Belgian back line, but then they have the best goalkeeper in the world in Thibaut Courtois. Just one thing, Belgium's 2 losses in recent major competitions, they've lost to the team that's gone on to win that tournament, and their last loss against a team that would be deemed on Canada's level was all the way back in 2016. And I'm taking the Egypt game just yesterday out of the equation, but it was Wales in 2016 at the Euros. I think they've come a long way since then. Do not underestimate this Belgium side. They are flat track bullies against weaker opposition. Canada is in for a real fight in this opening game.
Well, we hope you're enjoying the show so far, but I got to say, our preview show wouldn't be a preview show unless we looked at each group. A storyline and bold prediction for each group awaits. You don't want to miss it right here on Good Night Qatar. It's the part of a preview show that you actually need to be considered a preview show. We're going to look at all the groups at the 2022 World Cup here on Good Night Qatar. Welcome back. Each of you have been assigned a group. Each of you have to tell me one big storyline of that group and one big bold prediction. I'm going to begin with you, Ollie. Storyline, bold prediction for Group A.
Well, the storyline, I think, given we've already covered the hosts, is the return of the Netherlands to the World Cup, right? After failing to qualify in 2018, unlike Italy, they haven't gone back to back.
Here we go again.
So the Dutch are back in the tournament, and I think they're an interesting team. This is a team that's kind of been all or nothing, over the past couple of decades. Like the last 6 World Cups, 3 of them they've been to the semifinals or better, and then 2 of them they failed to qualify. So it's a team that when they actually get there, they tend to do fairly well. I think they have a decent pathway through the tournament this time as well, and some interesting players. They really are built around a centre back group, playing 3 centre backs now that is incredibly strong. Obviously led by Virgil van Dijk. So they're a bit of I wouldn't say a sleeper team because it's one of the most historic nations in world football, but just kind of outside the biggest group of favourites. I think they're an interesting team to watch. But my prediction, I am going to go down the same kind of lines as Wheels went down earlier on. I think Ecuador gets through this group, and I think they do it unbeaten as well. They are such a difficult team to beat. If they can win that first game against Qatar, they are set up brilliantly to do what Ecuador do best in the second two games, keep clean sheets, be horrible to play against, and progress through this group, I think, with the Dutch.
There's a huge advantage to go out and win this group because you could potentially play the second place team in Group B. Netherlands are undefeated with Louis van Gaal as manager. They're a team to look out for. Just too bad for Senegal. The Sadio Mane loss cannot be overstated because really this team won the African Cup of Nations, seemed like they could be a dark horse for this tournament. They're very good through the midfield. They're combative. They can play. They kind of match up well against Ecuador, but without Mane in attack, you just wonder where the goals are going to come from.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to come to you now, Gareth, though, for Group B. I need a storyline and a bold prediction.
Storyline is, how will England screw this up? Like, that's it. Like every World Cup, this is the same story, is how they screw things up. We're second in their group in 2018. They had a beneficial and easy path through to the, to the semifinals of the World Cup. Same thing with Euro, by the way. The draws just simply worked out for them. 2014, they were eliminated in the group stage. Second place in the group that included the United States in 2010. They won their group in 2006, but it was Ecuador, Sweden, and Trinidad and Tobago in the group. Second place in the group in 2002, and second place to Romania in 1998. This team just simply chokes on this stage, and it's just, you just wonder how they're going to choke this time around as well. I just think that they're in a group where there's not going to be many goals. The USA, they'll play on the counterattack. Wales is going to play on the counterattack. Iran has some very good strikers. Osman and Taremi are on good form right now, but they're a defensive side under Carlos Queiroz. These are going to be difficult teams to break down, and I just don't think that plays to England's strength. My hot take or my bold prediction for this group, USA under 3.5 points in this group. I see all this hype about their squad. I like the direction of U.S. soccer. I hope that they do well on behalf of CONCACAF. I just look at this team, far too many holes. I don't trust them at center back. They have no pronounced number 9. Their fullbacks are bombers. I just don't think that they're defensively good enough. I have some serious questions. I think that USA might actually finish bottom of this group, might only pick up a point or two. That's it.
Well, Ollie, I don't have to say anything about England because every time you say something about Italy, Wheels does it for me. Let's move on to Group C. Jordan, I need a storyline and a bold prediction.
My storyline has to be about Lionel Messi and Argentina. Is Lionel Messi considered the GOAT even if he doesn't win the World Cup this time around? This is going to be his last World Cup. For me, he has everything in terms of the way he plays. Everyone knows he's probably the best player. But can you consider him the GOAT if Argentina bow and don't win this World Cup? They haven't lost in, I feel like, past 2 years. They've just been playing. And just like Brazil, they're probably the most even and have the most depth within their squad. But for him, if he wants to be up there with the Pelés and the Maradona, he has to get this World Cup. He has to win. This is going to be his last one. So for me, that's the storyline looking into this group. My bold prediction, I know, don't shoot me, but I think Poland is going to have the same amount of points as Argentina. So they're going to tie, but Poland's also going to beat Saudi Arabia and also going to beat Mexico. I think Lewa, he plays different for his country. I think going into Lewandowski and the Polish, I just feel as if when they play Argentina, if they can get it sorted and it could be a draw, they'll finish with the same points. Argentina will go ahead on goals.
Just want to say Mexico has made the last 7 World Cups. They've got out of the group in the last 7 World Cups. It's around a 16 that they get dumped out every time. That streak has to continue. Lewandowski didn't even score a goal in 2018. Poland bottom of the group. Mexico's going to advance. Book it.
So let's put money on this. You're saying Argentina and then Mexico and then
yes.
Poland. Okay.
Yes.
Don't worry, this is all being recorded, Jordan, so this will come back to bite you if your bold prediction
7
is
in
an
a row.
absolute flop.
Unbelievable.
Do not worry about that.
Don't rate either of them.
We will hold you accountable.
You going for Saudi Arabia, Ali?
No, don't rate them either.
I think Messi's the GOAT already. The World Cup is so hard to win.
You think he's the GOAT without the World Cup?
Oh, look at everything now. His trophy case is bursting at the seams. Copa America was the big one for him, right? Because then, that question could be had around Ronaldo too, right? Anyways, let's move on here. Ollie, I'm coming right back to you for a storyline and bold prediction on Group D.
Well, the storyline is obviously the holders, France, and how they're going to fare, and whether Didier Deschamps can rebuild this team on the fly, which he's going to have to do to a certain extent, particularly in the midfield where Kante's injured, Pogba is injured, Matuidi, who was a key part of that team in 2018, is obviously no longer with the national team. So that is an area where it's a really young group, or it's a combination really of young players and players who you wouldn't necessarily put at the top level. A World Cup, like Adrien Rabiot could be starting for this team, which seems on paper like quite the downgrade from the midfield they were turning out in 2018. But then what you fall back on with France is unbelievable depth at the back and some young players coming through who I think are going to be world class in those positions for years to come. And then an attack that is potentially even better than 2018, right? Because now you've got Griezmann, you've got Mbappe, obviously Giroud as well. But you've also got Karim Benzema, the reigning, World Player of the Year in that team. So it's about Didier Deschamps' ability to kind of pull those things together and to build a midfield out of the pieces he's got with the players he's missing. My bold prediction isn't going to sound very bold, but I think it is, given the history of recent winners at this tournament. I'm predicting that France are not going to blow up and will actually be a team that goes deep at this World Cup. And the reason for that is you look at the history, right? Germany out in the group stage in 2018, Spain out in the group stage in 2014, Italy out in the group stage in 2010. Brazil's the only exception in 2006. And then France, obviously, in 2002, absolutely blew up as well. This team has history of doing that. Holders have history of doing that. I don't think they will. I think they'll be okay. They may not win the tournament, but they'll go deep.
Denmark wins a group. Denmark beat them home and away in the Nations League, and they were the same group in 2018.
Gareth is going to chime in on everyone's group, but I need you to go to group.
Denmark's overrated?
Gareth,
I think everyone loves them, but I don't think they're actually that good.
Group E have two former winners who I think are both a little bit overrated because both are flawed. Spain and Germany. The storyline is whether the young players and how much they can step up. Germany's side that failed to get out of the group in 2018 is almost completely different, but I know that Muller and Kimmich and Goretzka are still there, but like I look at Musiala and Makoko, like these players are going to have to play a big role for this team if they want to make noise. Germany's very weak in defense as well. Same thing with Spain. I love their style of play, but are Pedri and Gavi and Fati able to put this team on their back a little bit and fill some of the much needed holes in this team? So that's my biggest question about those two teams. And my bold prediction is whoever advances from this group as the top two teams, they're both eliminated in the round of 16 because they go on and play the top two teams from Group F, Belgium, Croatia, Morocco, Canada. I think that they lose to whoever they play in the very next round. So I think it's about the group for these teams, and then I think they bow out of this tournament.
We're moving on to Group F, Jordan.
For me, the biggest question is, in this group, we have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. I'm hearing all about Belgium and I'm hearing all about Croatia, but what about Morocco? People are forgetting Morocco is actually such a talented group. I feel like for once they have a nice mixture of young players coming into the team and just coming with so much presence. The way they play, they're hard to beat. Like Hakimi, we got I forget to pronounce his name, but Unahi from Angers. I was gonna say Angers from Ligue Angers. These are great players going forward. I feel like they could do something in this group, seeing as I'm already expecting Belgium and Canada to draw and Belgium to freak out a little bit. But I think Morocco could be the team to come in second in this group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Prediction?
So that is my bold prediction, is that people are sleeping on Morocco, and Morocco could actually advance and leave the group stage.
Ollie, coming back to you for Group G. We got two more to go.
Group G, well, obviously the big storyline is Brazil and whether they can live up to their title as favorites. But I think individually within that, there's a storyline around Neymar, right? And we talk about Messi and Ronaldo and their legacy, but what about Neymar? I think he needs to win this World Cup if he's going to be considered one of the true Brazilian greats, if he's going to put himself alongside Pelé and Ronaldo and the players that have come before him. I don't think he has quite that same popularity within Brazil yet as those legends of the past. And I think this is his opportunity to take that. He can also take, obviously, the all-time scoring lead with 3 more goals off of Pelé as well, which is pretty remarkable. So a massive tournament for him, along with a number of players who may or may not be playing at their last World Cup. My bold prediction is that Serbia in this group are going to be everyone's favorite second team. This is a team that just loves to attack, for better or for worse. I think they're going to be incredibly entertaining to watch. They potentially have the best front two in the tournament in Vlahovic and Mitrovic up front, both dealing with some injury issues, but will hopefully be healthy to play. Tadic supporting them. Milinkovic-Savic in midfield is a box-to-box player. Kostic from wing-back. Tons of exciting players in this team, and a coach in Stojkovic who wants to get the most out of them by just flying forwards.
All right, Gareth, take us home with Group H.
Yeah, it's a really good group, and the storylines are all about revenge. Portugal was knocked out of last World Cup by Uruguay in the round of 16. Uruguay, Ghana have history. 2010 World Cup, probably the biggest storyline for that World Cup. Suarez intentionally saved a goal, and then Asamoah Gyan missed the penalty. Uruguay advanced on penalties, all because of Luis Suarez. Ghana have another shot at Uruguay. And Portugal, South Korea have history. In 2002, their only meeting. Portugal had to beat South Korea to get out of the group. Went down to 9 men, failed to beat South Korea, and that's when South Korea went on that magical run through that tournament, and Portugal bowed out at the group stage. So revenge, perhaps that impacts the play that we see. My bold prediction is whoever wins this group, and I'm looking at Portugal, Uruguay, because I highly rate both teams, go on to reach at least the semifinal of this tournament. It's beneficial to win this group. You play second place in Group G. You're also on the same side of the draw as the group winner of B and F. It's a weaker side of the draw. There's a huge reward to go in and win it. Uruguay's good. We'll see if they're ready to go on and take that next step. Portugal, if they bring it all together, could be the team to go on and actually win this tournament. Win this group, you could find yourself winning the tournament.
Look out. All right, there's our preview of all the groups. And when we come back, it's everyone's favorite game. Likely or unlikely takes us home. Who will have a better World Cup between Messi and Ronaldo? Who will win the Golden Boot? Plus, so many more hard-hitting questions next. Let's drive across the finish line here on Good Night Qatar, gentlemen, with our favorite game, likely or unlikely. Wheels, I'm starting with you. Likely or unlikely that Messi will have a better World Cup than Ronaldo?
Likely, because I'm not sure what role Cristiano Ronaldo will play. I think Ronaldo could have a good World Cup. With Lionel Messi, he doesn't have to drop back to his own 18-yard box anymore. He has a great team around him, and Argentina are my team to win the tournament. Messi.
All right, Jordan?
CR7 we trust. I don't need to explain myself. I think Ronaldo shows up when he needs to. I don't care about all the nonsense that's going on with Man U. This man lives for big moments, and he's going to bust net.
Break the tie, Ollie.
It's likely. Messi is the modern GOAT, and anyone arguing otherwise is deluding themselves.
Back to you, Ollie. That likely or unlikely, France will at least make the semifinal.
Ooh, I'm going to say unlikely on this one. I think they'll be at least in the quarterfinals. I think they might just not have quite enough to go that deep this time.
Wheels?
I'm going to say unlikely. Look, Matuidi, Pogba, Conte were so good last World Cup. Unbelievable. They have a completely different midfield. Benzema's back in the team. Look, France has the ability to be dynamic and also have the ability to implode. We'll see which way it goes. I'm going to bet unlikely.
Just give me unlikely or unlikely, Jordan.
Unlikely because I feel in my heart they will implode.
How about likely or unlikely, Jordan, that Mexico fails to get out of the group stage? I feel like you already said likely.
Yeah, I did because I said something that was super bold, and I'm going to just stick with it. So I'm going to say unlikely.
Ollie?
I think unlikely because I don't rate anyone else, to be honest with you. I just don't think Poland are very good.
Poland stinks at major tournaments. Mexico's getting out of that group, Andy.
All right. Likely or unlikely, Garrett, that the World Cup Golden Boot winner will be either Harry Kane, Kylian Mbappe, or Lionel Messi?
Well, I'd be a fool not to take the field, so I'm going to go unlikely. I think that Messi would be my favorite, but give me the field here.
Okay. Ollie?
I'm going to say unlikely as well. I think there's just enough in the fields when you look at Richarlison, Benzema to take the rest.
All right, Jordan.
Unlikely. You guys are forgetting a name. Neymar.
Not.
He's gonna win Golden Boot.
Could be.
Put him in there. Ollie, likely or unlikely that Christian Pulisic meets World Cup expectations?
Well, unlikely, because why is he even getting a question in this show? Like, he's not that world star. Like, that shows you where the expectations are with Pulisic, that we talk about him, even though he's not on the level of the top players at this tournament, as good as he is for me.
Yeah.
Jordan?
Unlikely. Gotta agree with Ollie. He's a great player, but the pressure that he has with the USA family, I don't see him. I don't see him doing that.
I wish I could play devil's advocate and say likely, but I can't. Clean sweep, unlikely. He was in a commercial compared to LeBron. What?
I know. Let's
Makes no
bring this
sense.
home, guys. Let's bring this home with likely or unlikely. Wheels, I can count on you. Wales will have a better World Cup than England.
Likely.
Unlikely. See you tomorrow.
Ollie?
Unlikely.
Exactly.
Unlikely.
Out of
Jordan,
here.
break the tie,
Unlikely.
Jordan. What is
Unlikely. Stop it, Wheels. Stop.
Yes,
It's gonna bust out.
All right. well, there
Iran
you
might
go.
win the group.
We have set you up, everybody. We have previewed Qatar 2022 right here on Good Night Qatar. Be sure to join us every single night. We'll be taking a look at the matches that were, the matches that will be. We'll always be checking in with Kristian Jack and, of course, talking Canada. See you every night.